I will take an illustrative instance altogether to my mind and special purpose. What, I ask, is the truth of water? Is it that it is formed of hydrogen and oxygen? That the chemist has now another mode of stating the fact of water will not affect my illustration. His new mode will probably be one day yet more antiquated than mine is now. Is it for the sake of the fact that hydrogen and oxygen combined form water that the precious thing exists? Is oxygen and hydrogen the divine idea of water? Or has God put the two together only that man might separate and find them out? He allows his child to pull his toys to pieces. But were they made that he might pull them to pieces? He were a child not to be envied, for whom his inglorious father would make toys to such an end. A school examiner might see therein the best use of a toy, but not a father. Find for us what in the constitution of the two gases makes them fit and capable to be thus honored in forming the lovely thing, and you will give us a revelation about more than water, namely, about the God who made oxygen and hydrogen. There is no water in oxygen, no water in hydrogen. It comes bubbling fresh from the imagination of the living God, rushing from underneath the great white throne of the glacier. The very thought of it makes one gasp with an elemental joy no metaphysician can analyze. The water itself, that dances and sings and slakes the wonderful thirst, symbol and picture of that draught for which the woman of Samaria made her prayer to Jesus. This lovely thing itself, whose very wetness is a delight to every inch of the human body in its embrace. This living thing which, if I might, I would have running through my room, yea, babbling along my table. This water is its own self, its own truth, and is therein a truth of God. Let him who would know the love of the Maker become sorely athirst, and drink of the brook by the way. Then lift up his heart, not at that moment to the maker of oxygen and hydrogen, but to the inventor and mediator of thirst and water. That man might foresee a little of what his soul might find in God. If he become not then as a hart panting for the water brooks, let him go back to his science and its husk. They will, at last, make him thirsty as the victim in the dust tower of the Persian. As well might a man think to describe the joy of drinking by giving thirst and water for its analysis, as imagine he has revealed anything about water by resolving it into its scientific elements. Let a man go to the hillside, and let the brook sing to him till he loves it, and he will find himself far nearer the fountain of truth than the triumphal car of the chemist will ever lead the shouting crew of his half-comprehending followers. He will draw from the brook the water of joyous tears, and worship him that made heaven and earth and the sea and the fountains of the water. The truth of a thing, then, is the blossom of it, the thing it is made for, the topmost stone set upon with rejoicing. Truth in a man's imagination is the power to recognize this truth of a thing, and wherever, in anything that God has made, in the glory of it, be it sky or flower or human face, we see the glory of God, there a true imagination is beholding a truth of God. And now we must advance to yet a higher plane. We have seen that the moment whatever goes by the name of truth comes into connection with man, the moment that, instead of merely mirroring itself in his intellect as a thing outside of him, it comes into contact with him as a being of action, the moment the knowledge of it affects or ought to affect his sense of duty, it becomes a thing of far nobler import. The question of truth enters upon a higher phase, looks out of a loftier window. A fact which in itself is of no value, becomes at once a matter of life and death, moral life and death, when a man has the choice, the imperative choice of being true or false concerning it. When the truth, the heart, The summit, the crown of a thing, is perceived by a man. He approaches the fountain of truth whence the thing came, and perceiving God by understanding what is, becomes more of a man, more of the being he was meant to be. In virtue of this truth perceived, he has relations with the universe undeveloped in him till then. But far higher will the doing of the least, the most insignificant duty raise him. He begins thereby to be a true man.